Welcome to the Mystery Tour of Lourdes. The Magill Mystery Tour was a feature of the Catholic Association Pilgrimage to Lourdes, originally started by Father Paul Magill at Stonyhurst College back in the 1960s. Unfortunately, this year we're not able to go to Lourdes, and it was felt that it might be helpful to people to be reminded and to learn about what goes on in Lourdes, and in particular about the Mystery Tour. I'm sorry that this tour has to be virtual. I'm even more sorry that the refreshments at the end of the tour, when we all go to a cafe and have ice creams, will also have to be virtual. But hopefully next year we'll be able to go for real, and I look forward very much to seeing you then and having a real ice cream at the end of this.
As I kneel before you, as I bow my head in prayer, take this day, make it yours, and fill me with your love.
The Magill Mystery Tour was really looking at places in Lourdes connected with St. Bernadette and the experience she had in 1858 of seeing Our Lady in the grotto at Lourdes.
I saw blue, the palest, softest blue. It moved like silk, but this was new. No color that I know, no artist paint could show the beauty of my aquarium.
It was really important to remember that the story of Lourdes depends on the testimony of this young 14-year-old girl living in poverty, not in the best of health. It's her story that really the whole testament is based on.
The beauty of my aquarium.
4 years after the apparitions, the church convened a commission and confirmed that Our Lady had indeed appeared at the grotto in Lourdes to St. Bernadette. One of the messages that Our Lady gave to St. Bernadette was, "Go tell the priests to build a chapel here. I desire people to come in procession here." So Bernadette went to the parish priest and passed on this message. He said to her, "Please tell me who this lady is that is asking you this." And she kept on asking, "What is your name?" Eventually, Our Lady said to her on the 25th of March, on the 16th apparition, "I am the Immaculate Conception." Little Bernadette didn't know what that meant, but she ran to the parish priest, repeating to herself over and over again, "I am the Immaculate Conception, I am the Immaculate Conception," and blurted this out to her parish priest, who of course immediately knew that this was confirmation of what the Pope had declared in Rome, Pope Pius IX, 4 years before, in the doctrine of the Immaculate Conception. From being one of her most sceptical about St. Bernadette, Father Perimal became one of her staunchest supporters.
We'll build it brick by brick. We'll
And this led to the building of the first point of call that we're going to see on the mystery tour, the chapel above the grotto, which today we call the crypt, a beautiful chapel. We go there not just because it's a long hike up the ramp for your helpers to push there, but also because it has a particular connection with St. Bernadette, that she attended the opening of this chapel in 1866 as a child of Mary in May 1866. Within 2 months, she'd left Lourdes for good and went to the convent at Nevers, where she spent the rest of her life. She never returned to Lourdes or to the grotto, which she said was her piece of heaven on earth.
I'm not looking to play the lead. That part's been taken, in her they can believe. I'm not looking to steal the show. No mold of plastic, golden halo. The crowd is pressing just to touch my hand, but I'm the message, not the promised land. I'm just looking to make it last.
Very soon after the crypt had been built, it was seen to be far too small for the numbers of pilgrims that were coming to Lourdes, so a larger church had to be commissioned. And this is the church that we now see on top of the grotto, on top of the crypt, the Church of the Immaculate Conception. And this was opened in 1871, and where we will go to next. A beautiful French Gothic church with its iconic spire that you can see on all the postcards of Lourdes right on above the grotto. Some beautiful stained glass windows and some of the words of Our Lady written around the nave. After we've been to the Basilica of the Immaculate Conception, provided it's open, we go down the zigzag path towards the grotto, and this was the route that Bernadette herself took to the grotto, apart from on that first occasion.
Do you remember when I was young? I can smell the summer, still feel the sun. These small streets, they have lived in me, just as I have lived in them. Every part of my life they know, and now you're telling me to go.
Once we get to the grotto, we might have a glass of water in the shade and be able to look at where Our Lady actually appeared to young Bernadette.
These bricks of dust and clay, these stones of Massabielle, they can speak across the races. The rocks will tell the story and the rivers speak a name.
Whilst the grotto and the rock of Massabielle is much the same as it was in Bernadette's time, the grotto area has been changed considerably, and the River Gave pushed back to allow people to congregate there, so that has changed from Bernadette's years.
Come light a candle here and feel her presence near, and feel her presence near. You'll never be alone. That flame becomes a million torches reflected on the faces of the people she will call, and as your candle burns.
We now move on to the third church on the site, the Rosary Basilica, even bigger church, built at the bottom of the area there and opened in 1901. And if we go in there, we have the chance to see a plaque which dedicated to the memory of the old boys of Wimbledon College and Stonyhurst College who gave their lives in the First World War. Our next point of call is to go across the esplanade to the Basilica of St Pius X, the underground basilica, which can hold as many as 25,000 people, and where they hold the weekly international mass. Hopefully we can cross over that and exit by the organ area, where there is a plaque commemorating its opening in 1958, 100 years after the apparitions, by Cardinal Roncalli. Some of you may recognise his name because he became later that year Pope John the 23rd, good Pope John, who has since been canonised as St. John the 23rd. We then move to the nearby Museum of Lourdes, where there are many artefacts and memories and photos of St. Bernadette and a model of Lourdes as it was back in those days. Even today, the members of the Bernadette family, the Subaru family, are all christened in the christening robe that young Bernadette made at the convent of Nevers. By now, I think you'll probably be quite tired and in need of some refreshment and rest. If your organiser has done his job, he should have reserved a place for you at a nearby cafe where you can have an ice cream and drink, and I'm only sorry that this time it's a virtual one, but I very much hope that next year it will be a real one, and I look forward very much to seeing you there. So let's pray for that we'll be there next year, and thank you very much for listening. God bless.